We're going to be talking to someone from the Nano Banana team. As if you've been following the show, Nano Banana and Nano Banana Pro is one of the most exciting advances in artificial intelligence. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing even more exciting stuff from the team. But rather than listening to me, this is an interview format, so we're going to hand over to David. Would you mind introducing yourself and your role within the team and letting the people at home know what it is you do?
Hi, everybody. My name is David Sharon. I'm a group product manager on the Gemini app working on multimedia generation, which includes images and video. Today, we're going to talk about Nano Banana Pro. Very excited to be here.
As I've mentioned, there are very few AI technologies that have made me sit up, but they are these moments where you're like, oh, this is something new. For me, there have been 3 or 4 in the last couple of years. There was the initial release of ChatGPT, pretty big deal. There was Claude Code more recently, and then there was Nano Banana, and in particular Nano Banana Pro. For me, the ability to generate text within images was one of those moments where I thought, this is an exciting new advancement, and I can see so many things I can do with this now. As somebody who was on the team releasing these products, how did that feel to release something that wasn't just an incremental update, but was actually groundbreaking?
It's a great honor to be part of this team and very exciting as well. Also, very large responsibility. I remember the first time with Nano Banana, not Nano Banana Pro, when I uploaded an image of myself and asked to transform into a superhero. And I saw my face and I said, oh my God, that looks like me. That's a moment where I knew we had something. I was so excited to bring it to market with a large team and see the reception where people went absolutely bananas all over the world. We started to see trend growing larger and larger. Our mission on the team is to unlock human creativity at scale, to see people for the first time being able to communicate visually, something that was locked from them before because you didn't have the skill, you didn't have the time. Sometimes you didn't have even the idea. And getting that loop from social media, seeing what's possible and say, hey, I want to try that too. And then going and trying more things. It's such an amazing experience and it continues to grow, which is incredible. You were mentioning Nano Banana Pro. The first moment for me was when I created my first infographic. What's fascinating about infographics is that it's not just a small text. It's also how you organize information and the visual layout. So when you think about the information organized, it goes to Google search for the first time. We have chaining with Google search and takes all that context from Google search for your query. You can ask a small prompt, explain how trees grow to a 5-year-old. It will go to Google search and get all the details and transform that to something a 5-year-old can understand. It'll take the relevant information and then think, what would be a good visual layout for this information? And create that visual layout with the small text and hopefully no misspellings. When I saw that for the first time in 20 seconds from the moment of prompt, I can't believe where we're heading. We're heading to something more core utility. Everything you can do with Nano Prop on the product side.
Of course.
Oh, wait. Thank you for that.
I think you brought up what I was going to ask about. I've been using Nano Banana Pro for infographics and slide decks inside of Notebook LM using Nano Banana Pro, which is just mind-blowing. It's one of those things that I keep telling people, you need to go and try this. And as soon as they do, they're like, how did it do that? The question I was going to ask is, how does it do that? And I think you've already answered. It goes to Google, gets that information. Does it then pipe it through to Gemini, which helps order that information, and then it sends that information to Nano Banana Pro? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So it goes to Google, retrieves information, then it looks at how to package that information with Gemini. We package that information, generate an image using the information provided and the visual layout that would make sense for that information. You mentioned a slide on Notebook LM, you get something like a slide, and then you can repeat that over and over again, knowing what was the first slide, what was the second slide. You could create a storyboard with Gemini. Let's say you have a prompt and, okay, this is your subject. Okay, what would be good for slide number 1, slide number 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 10. And then create an image for each one of those slides. So the Notebook LM team has done an incredible job there. On the Gemini app, you can create a singular slide and keep on going. There's so much innovation happening in the market. Once you unlock these creative tools, it's incredible to see how the public receives them and what they do with them. There's so many trends that we saw that were mind-blowing to us. Wow, that's so cool that somebody did that.
Because you put the tools in their hand, but then it's up to the wider public to work out how to use those tools. And I'm sure they come back with really surprising uses. You talked about the moment when Nano, the first Nano Banana, so not Pro, but a little earlier, really hit the public imagination, and it rocketed and became the thing on the internet, the thing with artificial intelligence for a number of months. So at that time, we saw the downloads of the Gemini app in particular start to. So how did it feel being in the team that was responsible for finally putting out a competitor to ChatGPT, whereas they really had the dominance for the last couple of years by being a first mover, by getting out into the market, by getting a lot of market share. But then suddenly Gemini starts spiking, starts going up and up, thanks to, I believe, that Nano Banana moment. Am I correct there, or is it just coincidental timing?
Nano Banana was definitely a large moment for the Gemini app and for Google as a whole. We shared some numbers around the billions of images created. Back to the mission of unlocking human creativity at scale, we felt we're delivering on that mission, which was so exciting for us. It was also a moment of a fire drill. We have this large influx of users, and we need to serve them, and we need to serve them at scale, and we
It's
need
a
to
good
serve them
problem to
across
have.
regions. Every day, looking at the graph, one country go viral, and then the next one and a bigger one, day over day growth. The human mind doesn't grasp exponential growth. What does it look like 5 days from now? How do you muster all the resources, the infrastructure, the chips to make it happen? We have incredible teams that worked around the clock to meet the demand and keep those high quotas in place. We wanted to give people as many shots on goal as possible. When you're at a task trying to create an image, you might want to edit it and edit it again like a co-creative partner. If you have a low amount of generations per day, you won't necessarily manage to manifest your vision visually. So keep those high quotas in place, even though there's a ton of demand, and meet the moment. And really, the teams working on making the model cheaper, the infrastructure, serving, moving chips from left to right, and squeezing every chip to a maximum degree, performed heroics to really serve at scale. And the market received it very well.
And that's the stuff that the public don't see. They don't see all of that work behind the scenes, all of the deployment of the chips, all of the teams, all of the data, like all of that pipeline. That's invisible. All they're seeing, and this is all they should see for the most part, is a generation. And they don't necessarily know about the huge amount of work and investment that's going on behind the scenes as well.
Yeah. One thing we think a lot about in the Gemini app, in our goal to be the universal assistant, the AI universal assistant, we think about simplicity. So how do we make it extremely easy for the user to reach their goal? And how do we abstract away the hundreds of choices that might not matter to you as much, so you can get to delight or value as fast as possible? One part about Banana specifically is that you got an image in mere seconds, 5 to 7 seconds. That's extremely fast to get an image. For example, a personal story. My grandfather passed away before I was born in the 60s, and I've never seen a color photo of him. So I took one of his images and asked to colorize it. I felt I was reviving a moment in time. And I showed it to my grandmother, who hasn't seen him since the 60s, and asked, is that the right eye color? Is that what his hair was like? It was such a bonding moment over his memory. Seeing people restore old photos, bringing loved ones from the past and into their own photo, hugging their younger self, which we saw a lot of celebrities pick up on as well. That's such a beautiful moment. You can relive memories and communicate visually that you get in so little time. Upload a photo and talk in natural language. And that's a real unlock of generative AI in the media space.
I've never really thought of that time to generate because I'm generally using services running in the background. I'm not necessarily thinking of that time to generate all the time, but in the graphical user interface in the app for the everyday user, if you want them to keep coming back, it needs to be served up quickly. If they are waiting 3 minutes for a generation and then it's not quite what they want, and then suddenly they're waiting another 3 minutes and then they're tweaking again, suddenly a lot of time has gone and it's very hard for that application to become a large part of their life. I've never thought about the speed of generation as a way to, yes, get people to their outcomes, but to make it easy for them so they're not having to struggle through the process. A lot of the early image generations were a lot of work. I know some people who like the
Mhm.
additional power of being able to tweak settings, but most of the market doesn't. They just want to describe in natural language, in English, what it is that they want, and then for that to be delivered. I think nailing that must have really helped Nano Banana to become the number one image generator.
Yeah, it was an incredible time. Now, from Nano Banana to Nano Banana Pro,
Mm.
Nano Banana Pro takes more time, 20 seconds. This is a moment where you ask yourself, okay, when do you want to put in horsepower? Pro is a very capable and smart model. Reasoning ability, horsepower, as I'll call it, comes with a cost in terms of time. So over there, you need to think of use cases that require a bit more power and it's worthwhile to wait for them, like the infographic. You want to restore an image, you want to do it in 5 to 7 seconds. And that core editing flow of trying many different times and being your co-creation partner. But there's certain things where you need a bit more muscle and you're willing to pay for that muscle through time. That's when you'll go to Nano Banana Pro. That's part of the reason why today in the Gemini app, you'll see two models living alongside each other. If you go to Fast, you get Nano Banana. If you go to Thinking or Pro, you get Nano Banana Pro. We wanted to give both those capabilities to users so they can decide, okay, this is my everyday use case, and that's when I'll go to Nano Banana. But there's times when I want something a bit harder and I want more quality, and I'm willing to wait more time for it. And then you'll go to Thinking or Pro for Nano Banana Pro. We think a lot about choices and simplicity. And this is an example where we decided we're going to sacrifice some simplicity to give more user choice because we think that choice matters.
Because I know famously with GPT-5, OpenAI tried to route everything automatically, and they ended up with very annoyed people because the routing was not necessarily sending people to the model they wanted to use. And that's why they brought back the choice. They allow you to have different model choices. It's a fine balance between giving users access of choice and making it simple for them to use. I've found with a lot of products I've developed and from talking to other people who provide multimodal products, lots of their users will always just choose the most powerful because they think that is the best. But the user's not necessarily thinking about the speed of deployment. That's the level we talk about Gemini Flash and stuff like that. Okay, that's a fast model that's going to allow you to get the answer you need quickly. But that's because we are conversant with all the different model types. It must be tricky balancing choice and ease of use when working with the general public and trying to create an application that can have wide adoption.
Exactly. There's so many places where we could insert a choice and we try to remove as many as possible, but some of them really matter. And then we are going to give the ability to choose for users. So that's where we're heading.
Speaking of where you're heading, what is the future for Gemini and Nano Banana Pro? Obviously, I'm sure you're not able to disclose everything, but if there is anything that you can tease, directions and philosophies that you guys are pursuing, I'm sure the people at home would love to know.
So first, Nano Banana Pro, what were the fundamental principles that allowed us to get where we are? The number one thing we do is listen to the ecosystem and users. What do users want? What are they complaining about? Where are the hurdles for them unlocking their creativity? We think about different user segments. I think about consumers. Other teams think about developers, enterprise. We listen to those users and say, okay, this is what we need to unlock for them. And this is true for image generation. It's true for video generation. It's true for any product really in Google, thinking about the user and their pain points. When we were listening to users before Nano Banana, we were seeing that humans see any small change in the face. We're trained to see any small change in the face. We're very attuned to the fidelity of images in terms of faces. Even though we were representing things very close to what a person looked like, when that person would look at it, they would say, that's not me. So we knew, okay, we need to preserve character consistency. We need to have better facial preservation. And that's what unlocked Nano Banana. We were noticing that a lot of people were complaining that they can't render text in English. Internationally, the story was even worse. So we said, oh, how do we unlock text rendering? And then we said, okay, let's go for it. Now, for the next generation, we're looking again, where are users hung up? What are the main pain points? How do they get more shots on goal, to be co-creation partners? How do we make it extremely easy to use? And what are the multitude of things that we're seeing through Nano Banana Pro and the market in general that people are complaining about? And that's really what guides us to the future. When thinking about what would be our roadmap, you just need to look at what are people complaining about today. And what people are complaining about today is what guides us for the next iteration.
How do you decide when you have solved a problem? Coming back to Nano Banana Pro and the text in image, which you just mentioned, if there's anyone watching this who has not used Nano Banana Pro and has not tried to generate an infographic or something that has heavy text inside of it, it really is wondrous. This was a problem in artificial intelligence or Gen AI for the last couple of years. If you weren't using AI at the time, you wouldn't have known about this, but you just could not generate text in image. It would just be a complete garbled mess in the background, and it would take away from the photorealistic nature or utility of the image. Nano Banana Pro all of a sudden just came out of the gate and said, done, we've solved this. It is done. There's maybe the odd spelling mistake, but even that I'm not noticing. It was basically a solved product, a solved problem at that point when it came out. When you are preparing for your next release, whatever that would be, are you aiming for that level of 100% solved, or does it just need to be incrementally better?
It's very humbling to hear that you feel it's solved. When I look at the product, I see the glass half empty all the time. I see the odd misspelling. I see the likeness that's not completely there. We're continually trying to push ourselves to get a higher bar. We have eval sets, challenge sets. We saturate our eval sets, we create new ones. But when you look at scale, when you look at so many images generated, we just announced 1 billion images generated on the Gemini app with Nano Banana Pro, and it took us 50 odd days to get there. You see the problems at scale. You see the misspellings, the issues. We are never satisfied that something is solved. What we do look for is a step change in improvement. So did we meaningfully change the curve for that eval set, for that capability in a way that it meets the average user threshold of feeling, like you said, that's solved?
Because I even felt that with Nano Banana Pro, the photorealism was pretty much solved. I can't remember the exact photo, but you've seen the images and memes where people are saying, is this real? Is this AI? I got to a certain point to tell, and I can zoom in, I can look for artifacts, things that are slightly too in focus or slightly out of focus or something. But I got to a point where there's no point in me trying to do this anymore. Photorealism was basically achieved, at least for me. There are people who are much more expert in this particular field. Again, that feels pretty much like a solved problem for me, because you're seeing billions of images and looking at the benchmarks. You know exactly what to look for. You're going to have a much higher threshold than myself and the general public as well.
You bring a good point with photorealism. That's one of the areas I tried to unlock, and we probably unlocked it with Immersion before Nano Banana. When we think about photorealism, I think about filmmakers. So in film, they have a saying around pulling the curtain of the Wizard of Oz. If you watch a series on TV, for example, and somebody has a ring on one finger, and then there's a cut and the ring isn't there, that takes you out of the moment. You see the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, and you're not as emotionally immersed. Take that to images. It's the same for images, it's the same for video. To create that emotional connection, to convey that message, sometimes that emotional message that you're trying to convey, you need to have a high degree of photorealism. The same with facial preservation. So we try to push on photorealism as much as we can. To your point of, is that real, is that not real? I mentioned in the beginning also the responsibility of releasing these tools. For us, it matters a lot to meet that moment and to release these tools responsibly. Society today is now asking, can I trust an image? Can I trust a video? In the past, it was an artifact that many people felt you can trust it. If you saw it, you know it's real. If you saw in the news a video clip, then you knew it happened. If you saw on a paper an image, you knew it happened. And today that construct is getting challenged. So we spend a lot of time on provenance and helping people understand if something is real or fake. The first thing we do is SynthID, an invisible watermark in the image that is unbreakable. We don't know of anybody who managed to break it yet. You can now upload an image or a video to the Gemini app and ask, is this generated by Google? Or is this AI generated? and it will tell you if it detects a synth watermark. So any consumer can do that now. The other thing we do is add C2PA, which is a standard that multiple players in the industry deploy on their images. You can upload that image to C2PA checker, and it will tell you the history of that image and what it went through. And then the third thing we do is that we add a visible watermark, which is most breakable. You can crop it out and it won't be there to let users know that it's generated by Google. So you have multiple avenues of provenance, one unbreakable, another used by many players in the industry, and one very breakable but easy to see to help that question of is it real or is it fake? So we can help society also determine what can they trust, which is a very important thing.
One thing I've noticed with SynthID in particular is that people actually know about it. I know there's a push to publicize it and make sure that people understand this exists. But very rarely have I seen the public in this space engaging with something that is relatively technical about regulation, it's about the ethics, but it is something that is generally known. I think your team's done a really good job of making sure that people know about SynthID. So that could have been something of very little public interest. But instead, I've seen in comments people saying, oh, put it in SynthID, stick it in SynthID, in the same way that you might say, oh, Google it. So people are saying SynthID. So whoever was on the team publicizing that has done a really good job. One thing, so this being able to use SynthID and the various other checks is fantastic when we are looking for a positive that this is an artificially intelligence generated image. One worrying thing that I've been seeing is that people have been disbelieving true images. So actual photos, including historical photos, which is a wild thing, saying that historical photo is not real, or this photo of this news event is not real. And of course, when you run those photos through SynthID or some kind of AI checker, there isn't going to be proof positive that it is generated by artificial intelligence because it was not. So that's such a new problem, refusing to believe non-AI generated images, even historical images. Obviously, this is a bigger question, but is there a fix for that? Is that something that AI companies should be looking at helping with? Obviously, you only have control over what is generated by AI, but what can we do about everything else that is true yet not generated by AI?
You bring up a great problem, and it's one of the areas where, as an ecosystem, we're going to have to evolve and push the frontier. The first step, which we have taken, is to show society what we generated. The next step would be to show society what anybody else generated. And the flip side of that is somebody else generated what is actually taken in real life. It's a frontier problem that needs to be pushed on. And I agree with you that this area of provenance needs to be developed even further. At Google, we developed SynthID and we take it very seriously and continue to push the frontier. I think you're raising a real issue around, okay, I know what Google generated, but what about the rest? How can I be sure about that historical photo that it's not AI generated, but actually real? And what are the ramifications of that?
Thank you. Obviously, that's too big to solve on this call. A really interesting question. And one of those unknown unknowns that would have been hard to predict as a consequence of AI generation. I think my last
Yeah.
question would.
One thing I would love to ask your audience is for them to leave in the comments any feature requests they have for Nano Banana or Nano Banana Pro. What would they like to see?
Okay, that's a really good question. So I will put out short videos on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, YouTube, etc., asking people what would they like
Yeah.
to see. What would be really useful is when we just
Awesome.
ask people, what would you like? That's very broad. If we could give them some kind of
Yeah, sure.
guidance, what kind of features? There's a UI, capacity, different generation tools. If we could give them some broad categories, I think that'd be really useful to help guide the requests. Because when we ask people, what do you want? That's a bit broad, but yes, absolutely. It's a
Sure.
great idea.
Sure. But that's where we get the surprises.
Okay, let's absolutely do that. The last question I think would be coming back to what you're building now, which obviously we can't talk about in full detail. What excites you about generative AI, about artificial intelligence, about image generation in 2026 and beyond? What are you really looking forward to? What do you think the next big shift is going to be in the space?
When I look at 2026, I think about how, for the first time in 2025, we felt we got a tipping point on images where people can communicate visually. Now, within my world of Google, of Silicon Valley, within people who might be subscribed to this channel, who are interested in AI, it feels like a solved problem. But when I go further echelons of society, you know what, let me rephrase that. We'll go back.
Of course.
When I think of what's coming in 2026, I first look at what happened in 2025. In 2025, it was the first time that image generation hit mass market at an enormous scale. But when I look at that scale, there's still much room to grow. We didn't hit all of society yet. Images, videos, it is a great way to communicate. A picture is worth 1,000 words. But for many, they're still locked out. And I still think we can make it easier and hit an even bigger part of humanity to allow them to have this tool in their pocket. I think 2026, we're going to see that. When it goes from this viral moments in 2025 on Nano Banana Pro and hit a lot of people, I think we're going to have even more people in 2026 where it's going to feel that everybody's doing it and going to become a daily habit for some. If you want to communicate something through your business and want to do a photo shoot, if you want to show your product in a certain way. And when I say business, I don't mean large companies. It could be a very small business of 1 to 2 people. When you want to communicate something funny on WhatsApp, on your family chat group, when you want to have fun with your kids, like I do, and brainstorm with them what Halloween costumes they should have. That is going to hit mass market in 2026 for images and also for video.
Fully agree with you here. We're in our own bubble. You're in San Francisco. I do a daily AI news show. I'm very much focusing on this kind of stuff, but it is exciting to see the rest of the world catching up and realizing, oh, can I use it for this? And the answer always been, as long as your imagination can stretch to it, you can use artificial intelligence. Part of my mission is to make sure people aren't left behind. I want to make sure that people can start businesses with AI, have access to the technology. They're not scared about it and they're able to embrace it, because I think it could be a massively democratizing technology, but we just need to make sure everybody is on board and also able to use it. And that sounds fantastic. Just making sure it's fully accessible, that people aren't scared of it, that it's easy to use, that it is right here on your devices and you can it in daily life is such an exciting idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. So I think with that, Lorion, let's wrap it up, if that's okay, David. I think we have a lot, honestly.
I think that was really good. I think you covered quite a lot of ground and most of your questions there as well, Kyle. It was great to hear you guys talk very organically about all of. I'm so excited to hear back from your audiences. That's a really good shout. I think that's lovely. Obviously, if there's anything you want to reiterate or come back to, you know where I am, Kyle. So just let me know and I can get that for you or help.
Awesome.
Yeah, the same, to be honest. That sounds amazing. So just keep us updated. We'll be very keen to see how your audience reacts. Fantastic. Thank you for doing this with us.
Thank you, guys. And thank you, David. When I say that Nano Banana is one of the most exciting technologies in the last year, I remember using Nano Banana Pro and generating slide decks the first time in Notebook LM and being like, what the hell? Like, how is this possible? And that, because
I saw your video.
Yeah, because I'm using AI so much, I do use now, this week it's Claude-bot, for example. There's always something new. Most of it's not that exciting.
I'm not going to buy the Mac Mini. I'm going to take your advice and I'm not going to buy the Mac Mini. You saw your short on it.
Calling people stupid.
You're right.
Yeah. But genuinely, Nano Banana was one of the technologies. And I remember meeting Lorion recently after the Nano Banana Pro and being able to say to her, I'm so glad it's good. Because I meet a lot of AI people and they're like, oh, we will just release this agent. And I'm sitting there, I don't know what this does. I don't know who this is for. They're like, oh, it's great. But Nano Banana Pro, I was able to say to Lorion, like, no, it's really good. Congratulations. Your team have really cooked on this, which is a nice feeling in the AI world. Because there's a lot of noise. Let's put it that way.
For us too.
Thank you. It means a lot. I know the team is extremely energized. I'm just one small part of it. I'm very thankful to be part of your channel and have this opportunity, and excited to see how your audience receives the video and what they have to say in the comments and what they like. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll do a few additional videos outside of this asking what would you like to see? I can say, hey, Google have asked me, the Nano Banana team has asked me,
Yeah.
the Gemini team. So let's give them some suggestions and we'll try and get something substantial for you.
So
It's such a good way
I'll
to work out what to work on, is to find out what people want. A lot of people don't do that.
we will read every single comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Kyle.
it.
Speak soon.
Great.
Thanks,
you.
David.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.